Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a time in every life when someone we trusted, a friend, a partner, a colleague, turns against us. Betrayal cuts deeper than any physical wound because it breaks something sacred, trust. But here's a truth they never tell you. Those who betray others never walk away whole. No matter how strong they seem, how loud they laugh, or how high they climb, they carry the weight of their betrayal like a shadow they can't outrun. Betrayal doesn't just break trust, it breaks a part of you. It's not simply an action, it's a violation. When someone you care about, someone you believed in, turns against you, it leaves a scar that is hard to see, but impossible to ignore. It attacks the foundation of human connection, the assumption that the people closest to you will protect you, not hurt you. What makes betrayal so painful is that it doesn't come from an enemy. It comes from a friend, a lover, a family member, someone who once held your secrets, celebrated your successes, or walked with you in hard times. That's what makes it so personal, so cutting. Strangers can hurt your feelings, but only someone close can wound your soul. It causes confusion. You question yourself, how did I not see it coming? Was I not enough? Was it something I did? You replay moments trying to make sense of the senseless. That kind of emotional conflict doesn't fade quickly. It stays. It lingers. It shows up in your thoughts when you least expect it, in quiet moments, in trust issues, in anxiety about new relationships. Betrayal is trauma. It disrupts your sense of emotional safety. It teaches you, sometimes too early and too painfully, that not everyone who smiles at you has good intentions. And for many, the betrayal doesn't just mark the end of a relationship, it marks the beginning of deep emotional healing. A journey to rebuild trust in others and in oneself. The pain of betrayal isn't weakness. It's proof of how deeply you loved, how much you gave, how open your heart was. And while it may feel like a breaking point, it is also the place from which many rise, stronger, wiser, and more discerning. It may not be visible on the surface. In fact, it almost never is. Betrayers often appear composed, happy, or even proud in the immediate aftermath. They might walk away as if nothing happened, convincing themselves and others that they were justified, that they had no choice, or that you somehow deserved it. But beneath that carefully crafted exterior, something festers: guilt, shame, and the quiet erosion of peace. Human beings are wired for connection, and we carry an innate moral compass. Even those who stray from it still feel its pull. When someone knowingly betrays another person, they violate more than a bond. They violate a part of themselves. They cross a line they can't uncross, and that choice becomes part of their internal landscape. Whether they admit it or not, it follows them. At first, they may distract themselves. They may celebrate the freedom they gained or the advantage they seized through betrayal. But that's the illusion. Because peace doesn't live in shortcuts or backstabbing. Guilt creeps in during the quiet moments. When they're alone, when they see someone they've wronged doing well without them, or when they try to build new relationships and feel a gnawing fear that karma might repeat itself, that they might now be betrayed in return. It shows up in their restless sleep, in the subtle anxiety they can't name, in the trust issues they start to experience with others. Because deep down they know what they're capable of, and that knowledge haunts them. Every new friendship or partnership they form comes with a question mark in their own mind. Will this person hurt me like I hurt someone else? Their conscience may try to rewrite the story, justify the betrayal, or blame you. But the truth never disappears just because it's ignored. it waits. It lingers in their mind, reminding them of what they did and who they had to become to do it. Sometimes they'll try to bury the guilt under achievements or relationships, but no external success can heal an internal wound that was self-inflicted. That's the curse of betrayal. It doesn't just hurt the one who is betrayed, it stains the soul of the betrayer, often in ways they don't understand until it's too late. True peace, the kind that brings rest to the mind and quiet to the heart, cannot thrive in the same space as guilt. It's not something that can be faked, forced, or purchased. Peace is internal stability, a sense of alignment between one's actions and one's values. When someone has betrayed another, especially someone who loved and trusted them, they fracture that alignment. The mind knows, the heart knows, and the soul carries the weight of that fracture. A guilty conscience is not always loud, sometimes it's subtle, a low hum beneath the noise of everyday life. It shows up in the pauses between conversations, in the tension behind a smile, in the silence after the laughter dies down. It can be buried under work, distraction, or denial, but it never truly disappears. That's because conscience is persistent. It whispers even when the world is shouting. And its message is simple: you did wrong. You can't find peace if you're constantly at war with yourself. A guilty conscience creates that war, an internal conflict between who someone wants to be and what they've done. And until that conflict is resolved, true peace remains just out of reach. The betrayer may try to meditate, travel, fall in love again, even seek forgiveness from others, but none of it sticks when guilt is unresolved. Their mind revisits the moment of betrayal. Their memory replays what they said or did. They may try to numb it or rewrite it, but the truth doesn't fade just because it's uncomfortable. Sometimes guilt even turns inward. It morphs into self-loathing, insecurity, anxiety, or depression. People don't always make the connection. They think they're unhappy because of a job, a relationship, a lack of fulfillment. But often, the root of that unease is moral failure, a betrayal they never made right, a person they hurt and never apologized to, a wound they caused but refused to acknowledge. That's why so many who betray others eventually find themselves restless. They change jobs, switch friend groups, move cities, always trying to outrun the voice inside. But peace is never found by running away. It comes from facing the truth, making amends, and learning from the damage done. Until then, no matter how calm things look on the outside, the storm rages within. Because peace, real peace, is the reward of integrity, and betrayal forfeits that reward. In a world that often measures worth by external achievement, money, status, titles, followers, it's easy to believe that success can cover anything, even a betrayal. This is one of the biggest lies people tell themselves after they've done wrong. If I just get ahead, no one will care what I did. If I become successful, I'll prove it didn't matter. If I'm winning, then I must be right. But deep down, they know better, because moral failure leaves a mark that success cannot cleanse. Material success may silence the critics for a moment, but it doesn't silence the conscience. You can build an empire on broken relationships, step over people who once loved you, and still find yourself lying awake at night with a hollow feeling that nothing you've gained was worth what you lost. That's the cost of betrayal. It cheapens every victory that comes afterward. The applause doesn't echo the same when you know how many people you had to hurt to get there. Think about it. How many celebrities, CEOs, or influencers seem to have it all, yet are miserable behind the scenes? How many reach the peak of their careers only to spiral into scandal, addiction, or isolation? Often their downfall isn't just the result of pressure, fame, it's the moral compromises they made on the way up. Betrayal, deceit, manipulation, these choices follow them no matter how high they climb, because success built on a lie is never secure. And even if the world doesn't see it, even if their betrayal is hidden from public view, they know. They carry it, and the more they achieve, the more it haunts them. Why? Because they start to realize that no amount of money or recognition can restore the dignity they sacrificed. No accomplishment feels truly fulfilling when your integrity was the price of admission. This is where the paradox begins. The more they chase external validation to silence the internal guilt, the emptier the victory feels. The yacht, the new car, the promotion, it might distract them for a day, a week, a season, but it never truly satisfies. They stand in the mirror dressed in success, yet see a reflection they can't fully respect. That's why moral failure is so devastating, not just because it harms others, but because it poisons the betrayer's own future. It taints everything they touch afterward. Until they confront what they did, material gain will always ring hollow. The image may look impressive, but you can't build real peace on a foundation of betrayal. Betrayal has a way of shaking you to your core. It doesn't just hurt, it destabilizes your sense of reality. It forces you to question everything, your judgment, your worth, your ability to trust. It's not just the act that wounds you, but the ripple effects it sends through your mind, emotions, and relationships. That's why healing after betrayal isn't quick or linear. It's a process, and often a painful one, but it is also profoundly transformative. At first, you may feel broken. You might go numb or fall into a spiral of overthinking, asking yourself why it happened, what you missed, or how someone you cared for could hurt you that way. That questioning is natural. It's part of your mind trying to make sense of this senseless. But what you must understand is that the betrayal says more about them than it does about you. You were not wrong for trusting. You were not weak for loving. You were human. And they misused that. Healing means accepting that you may never get the apology you deserve. You may never hear them admit what they did or understand the depth of the pain they caused. And that's one of the hardest parts, to rebuild without closure. But that's also where the power lies. Because when you choose to heal without their help, you take your power back. You stop waiting for them to make it right and start learning how to make yourself whole. The process may involve grieving. Not just the person, but the version of the relationship you thought you had. It may mean going through anger, sadness, disbelief, even shame. But these emotions are not your enemy. They are your evidence that you felt deeply, cared genuinely, and were present in that connection. And those are not weaknesses, they are strength. With time, you begin to rediscover yourself. You start to see the red flags you missed, not with self-blame, but with new wisdom. You learn to set boundaries, to protect your peace, to question what people show you without losing your capacity for trust. You may become more cautious, but you also become more discerning, more aware of what real love, loyalty, and respect look like. Healing also reveals your resilience. You begin to see that the betrayal didn't destroy you, it revealed your strength. That you were able to survive something that once shattered you means you are far more powerful than you knew. It teaches you how to hold your own heart when others drop it, how to stand when you've been left alone, and how to rise without becoming bitter. Yes, healing takes time, Some days you'll feel like you're making progress, others you'll feel like you're back at the beginning. But every step forward, even the shaky ones, is a victory. Because each day you choose healing over hate, growth over grief, and peace over vengeance, you are rewriting your story, not as a victim of betrayal, but as a survivor who refused to be broken. Forgiveness is one of the most misunderstood concepts when it comes to healing from betrayal. Many people think that to forgive is to excuse, to forget, or to let someone off the hook. But forgiveness isn't about minimizing the pain or pretending it didn't happen. It's not about saying what you did was okay, because it wasn't. What they did hurt deeply. It broke something that took time to build, and it left you to pick up the pieces alone. But here's what forgiveness really is. It's an act of power, not weakness, not surrender, power. It's the decision to release the emotional chains that tie you to what was done to you. It's choosing to stop letting that pain write the next chapters of your life. Forgiveness is not something you give to the betrayer for their benefit. It's something you choose for yourself, for your sanity, your clarity, and your peace. Because holding on to resentment is exhausting. It's like drinking poison and hoping the other person suffers. The anger may feel justified, and it often is, but carrying it every day becomes a burden. It keeps you anchored to the past. It takes space in your mind, your heart, your thoughts, and worst of all, it gives the betrayer continued power over your life. Every time you think of them with rage or hurt, you're still in the prison they built for you. Forgiveness is the key to that prison. It doesn't mean inviting them back into your life. It doesn't mean trusting them again. In fact, you can forgive someone and still never speak to them again. Boundaries and forgiveness can coexist. You're allowed to let go of the weight they left you with and still hold them accountable in your own way. By walking away, by healing, by refusing to let them rent space in your heart any longer. Some people think that unless the betrayer apologizes, forgiveness can't begin. But that puts your healing in their hands, and that's dangerous. Because the truth is, many betrayers never say sorry. Some are too proud. Some live in denial. Some are so consumed by their own guilt or ego that they pretend nothing happened. Waiting for them to do the right thing keeps you stuck. But when you realize that forgiveness is something you do for yourself on your terms, everything changes completely. You reclaim your energy. You take the lessons and leave the weight. You stop playing the betrayal on repeat and you start composing new music in your life. Forgiveness doesn't change what happened. It changes what happens next. It's your declaration that you refuse to be defined by what they did. And instead, you'll be defined by how you rise from it. So when you forgive, don't think of it as letting them go free. Think of it as setting yourself free. When you've been betrayed, one of the first emotions that often surfaces is a deep, burning desire for justice, and understandably so. The pain of being wronged by someone you trusted can ignite feelings of anger, even rage. You want them to feel what you felt. You want them to experience the same heartbreak, the same confusion, the same loneliness they caused you. You want fairness, and in that moment, revenge can look a lot like justice. But the truth is, revenge rarely delivers the satisfaction it promises. It may give you a temporary rush, a fleeting moment of control, but afterward, you're often left feeling emptier than before. That's because revenge keeps you entangled with the one who hurt you. It keeps your attention, your energy, and your emotional well-being tied to someone who proved they didn't deserve that power. In trying to even the score, you remain trapped in the same game, one they started, but you don't have to finish. Real justice doesn't come from bringing others down. It comes from rising above. It comes from healing so deeply that their actions no longer define you. It comes from waking up one day and realizing that you've grown into a stronger, wiser version of yourself, not because of the betrayal, but in spite of it. That's where true power lies, not in retaliation, but in transformation. When you pursue peace instead of vengeance, you disrupt the cycle of harm. You choose not to let pain turn you into someone bitter or cold. You refuse to let betrayal turn your heart into a battleground. This doesn't mean you ignore what happened or excuse the behavior. It means you reclaim control over your response. And that's where lasting justice begins. Because while betrayal was their choice, healing is yours. And often, justice comes in quiet, poetic ways. It shows up in the fact that you're still standing, still moving forward, still capable of love and trust, even after everything. It shows up when the betrayer realizes they lost someone real, someone good, someone loyal, and that loss is permanent. That moment may not be seen by others, but you will feel it. It is not loud or dramatic, but it is deeply satisfying. Peace is the ultimate justice because it cannot be taken, only chosen. While the betrayer may live with guilt, regret, and unrest, your calm becomes your reward. When your soul is at ease, when your mind is no longer weighed down by resentment, when you can look in the mirror and know you handled your pain with grace, that is justice. That is the kind of victory no revenge can offer. True justice isn't loud. It doesn't seek attention. It lives in the quiet confidence of a person who chose to rise, not in anger, but in strength. So let them pretend. Let them smile for the world, post their highlights, and live as though they've won. You don't need to expose them or match their silence with your rage. The truth has a way of surfacing, not always in public, but always in the soul. And there is no peace in a soul that knows it has broken something pure. Your healing is your justice. Your growth is your revenge. And your peace, the one you fought to reclaim, is the proof that no betrayal has the power to destroy someone who chooses to rise. Walk away with your head high. They may have betrayed you, but you didn't betray yourself. And that alone will echo louder and longer than anything they'll ever find in the aftermath of their choice.